Hello and welcome back to another episode of Supercoach Insider. We're bringing you Supercoach on wheels today. Something a little bit different. I haven't seen Chris in quite a while. Now, in the off season, I like cricket, he doesn't. So generally it's a good time for us to actually spend a little bit of time apart. So I thought I'd just try something a little different, take some of this wireless on the go and have a bit of a chat to Chris. We're about to go in and have a look at some suits and stuff, obviously for my wedding coming up in April. So what a good time to kind of just catch up with Teddy. I also have to give him, I've got all of the stuff I picked up from the AFL Grand Final that I didn't look at and I will never ever look at again, simply because it's going to hurt way too much. So yeah, that's pretty much where we're at. SC Insider 100. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. All the all the audio platforms as well. Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, you name it. We will be getting a lot of content out there, particularly in the new year. But first of all, what a bit of a mess that the Supercoach season has created. Now, round zero. Look, I understand what they're trying to do. I guess they're trying to have a good ticketing sort of opening. Soft open, should we say, a soft open where you have a couple games in New South Wales, a couple games in Queensland. Let's build the game and let's get some people sort of attending it and build some interest around it, but also not stepping on the Victorian toes, and let's still give Richmond and Carlton their fixture opening, which it isn't even. It's like a soft open where you're already opened up, mate, so you might as well just kind of fix that. But for Supercoach purposes, it does create a bit of a spanner in the works. I'll get Chris's thoughts on it when I pick him up. It's probably about 8 minutes or so until I pick up Teddy. We'll go check him out there. Sorry, we call him Teddy. Chris, you probably would have heard me maybe speak about him as Teddy. Swizz also picked up some wireless gear. Check him out. He's also killed it in the basketball. Ranked number 1 last week, which is absolutely crazy. So I think he picked up himself a $500 voucher. Ranked 148th overall or something. So Swizz just absolutely killing it in all platforms. I think I joked with Al Patton saying if they did cockroach racing for Supercoach, then Swizz would also do that and probably also kill it. So that's why we love him so much and respect his opinions, because he's just an absolute guru nut for everything Supercoach. So that's where we're at. But the interesting part, so positions are few and far between. I think there's probably more value in defence than there is in premiums and breakouts. There's definitely good options in defence. Forward line is thin as always, but we've said that the last couple of years. Forward line looks pretty crap. The only good thing with forwards is there are quite a lot of good cheap options, which we'll get into obviously into that new year. But yeah, the premiums in the forward line suck, as they have done the last couple of years really, where we're just looking for forwards that look like they're going to have a role change into that midfield, and that's where, generally speaking, we've had some pretty good options in the past just because of that role change. So I'm kind of looking for that through the pre-season. But the big issue is that this round zero, now round zero doesn't count, which means that some people are just picking sides at the moment and having fun, which I get, because you want to put all the players that you like in your side. I even had a mate, Damo, who is he's been joking around. I think he's beaten Chris the last 2 years in Supercoach, and he's one that always comes to us for advice. So now he's saying like, oh well, if I've beaten Chris the last 2 years, does that mean that I'm better at Supercoach than Chris? Why am I getting my advice from you, Chris? Was pretty much what he was saying. So he even sent me his team out. I said, yeah, but with round zero not going on, you're going to have this issue of, well, you're going to have, say, I'd like to start Neil, Dunkley, Walsh. I think they're all probably good value. I don't think they're going to be high ownership, and they're definitely not going to be high ownership now, because they're going to play round 1 for you, and then they're having a bye round 2, which absolutely kills it. And the same as Gold Coast have the bye in round 3, so then that kind of has a bit of an issue going forward, where you're only playing best 18 for the buys, and now there are 8 buys out of, say, 24 rounds. That's a big chunk of best 18. So it's even more important now, I think, to have as many premiums as you kind of can through that stage. But more importantly, in my mind, I'm looking for high returns. I'm looking for the people with high ceilings, someone that can really dominate and make a move in those best 18. So the thing that I'm kind of starting to look at primarily is looking at, okay, well, who's got the most scores over 120 plus in the season? Who's got the weaker opponents coming up through those buys, particularly the early ones? And straight away, the things that stand out to me is that the people with the best buys in general, Port Adelaide and Fremantle, if you like a premium from there, then go them, because they play all the rounds at the start of the year. They don't miss any through that. They also have the best buy because they only have a buy round of 2 teams, them. So Port and Fremantle have their buy to themselves, which means they'll cover you through all the early phases, all the early rounds, and cover you well through the other buys as well, which makes them really ideal. So that's where your Chera, so not Chera, my God, what am I living in 3 years ago? Sarong, your Brayshaws, your Young, Ryan, Jackson, Port Adelaide's, you've got your Rosie, your Butters, anyone that you're sort of looking at in that sort of area. Houston, they're going to be really good value because those points they'll pick up early and even through those other buy rounds, they might even pick you up 2 to 4 points per game over the whole season. So that could be really critical. But the thing I'm looking at with the 120 plus scores, I'm looking for not necessarily the most consistent players, although consistency is great, but I'm looking for hurt factor, people that can go 120 plus, because if you're just going a flat 100 and they're going 100 each week, and then you have a couple of rookies, spike a 70 or 80, well, then you're only picking up 20 to 30 points on your opposition because of that consistency. So that's the area that I'm kind of looking at, is looking at that hurt factor. I'm looking at as many premiums as I can, particularly through those 18 buy rounds. But the other consideration for me is now looking at, well, if you have someone that gets knocked out during those buy rounds, if you have someone that gets injured, you can actually carry a couple of people through each of the buys because of that best 18 format. So if your rookies are nailed, or you've got some mid prices that are banging off pretty well, and you've got plenty of coverage, it's not going to hurt you as much as it probably would have done previously, which is where you could keep a player for a week or two, and it's not going to hurt you as much. So that part I'm going to find a little bit more interesting. You might find people being a little less trigger happy through those buy rounds. And because it's best 18 as well, you probably don't have to really be as aggressive with the trading either. I mean, I know you want to upgrade, and you probably want to be aggressive to get another premium, but it's not going to matter as much once you get out of that round 7 or 8. I think it's going to be super aggressive between there and, say, the buys is probably where the real aggressive push is going to be. But yeah, I think premiums early on, don't have too many from the buy rounds. I'm only looking at maybe 1 or 2 people max from those 8 teams where possible, depending on value. 1 per buy round would be sort of sufficient, but if I can get away with not selecting them, I just might kind of do it that way. So yeah, it's going to be interesting with that fact. And for me, the big ones, I'm probably interested in Dunkley. I think will continue his absolute assault in that midfield, won't be high owned in my opinion. I'll probably fade Lockie Neal with him getting a little bit older, but he should still be decent enough. Walsh is the other one that I'd probably consider. Both of those have the second buy round. Touk Miller I don't mind, as far as someone who is undervalued depending on his role during this preseason. New coach as well as another consideration. Anderson as well as the other one that I was kind of looking at. Noah Anderson from the Gold Coast could go absolutely huge in my opinion this year, just because he's so complete inside and out, like a Walsh type. But again, just trying to look at the new coach. Hardwick's game style isn't exactly the most profitable for midfielders, so we'll sort of see how that works out. And then probably like Harry Himmelberg for me is probably undervalued, only a defender, but he is someone I feel could put up Sicily type numbers without the Sicily type price tag. So that's what I'm kind of considering. He has already got some security now as far as playing defence, so they're not going to move him around all year like they have previously. I know Chris is big on like Josh Kelly and some others that we'll sort of try and get into as well when we catch up with him. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Now, the other thing to note, and other people have maybe already spoken about this a little bit, but like I'm looking at structure in a sense. I'm kind of looking at those cheaper options that I'm sort of interested in. I'm probably going to watch the form, the stats, the preseason talk about all players like general, like I do in most years. But don't get too set in stone with your structures. Don't get too set in stone with the players that you're after, because that round 0 is going to see more recency bias than we have ever seen before. Now, rookies are easy enough because that recency bias is, that's going to net you money. So if a rookie bangs off and you can get them in for free, well, obviously you're just going to start them. If a premium goes big, you know, you might see, I think it was years ago where, say, Maxi Gawn absolutely sputtered in round 1 and Westhoff went absolutely huge and people were trading out Max Gawn for Westhoff in round 2. So people might actually just use that recency bias and see one big score going, oh, this person's going to go huge, and everyone just jumps on and loses their other premium that probably would have done them better for the year. So it is a bit of double-edged sword, a bit of risk reward as far as, you know, these premiums and the rest of it. But there's also no point really looking too much into your structure, or if there is someone that has one of those round 0 games and just their role looks great, you get even more data, the coach comes out saying, yeah, he's been doing this and looking really good, and everything just syncs and matches up, well then they would be one of the people that I would be interested in putting in my side, even if they have the bye round. So that's why I'm suggesting don't get too set on your team, because when round 0 comes, just expect that every single person is going to change it, and you know, you can't be too attached to that. So it's exactly what I am expecting to happen. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I'm really keen to see what Hardwick's doing with the Gold Coast. I've seen some footage out already that looks quite promising. I feel like rucks are already an issue. I've tempted a little bit, and again with I don't think the Dogs are playing first, but you know, Sweet playing at Port Adelaide now. Depends how they're looking at, because are they going to use Soldo as, so is it Ivan now at Port? Trying to, yeah, they're going to use him as a sole ruck. Are they going to use him as a ruck forward? Are they going to use Sweet as a ruck? You know, so it's going to be a little bit interesting, I think, as far as what they do in that sense. I am kind of looking at that. Naismith as well at Sydney. Was at Sydney, had bad runs with that, but now at Richmond, and Nate Curvis. So are they going to look at maybe using him in that kind of sense as well? So it's definitely something to consider. I just missed Chris's turn. So it is something to consider, that you might actually have 2 rucks that might actually be best 22, which would be awesome, and then it kind of makes the job easier as far as sort of selecting that ruck line. And the one for me, the biggest thing I am watching for in that round 0 is probably Grundy. The role, how he looks, you know, round 0, or the first round of the year is not generally the most productive with rucks anyway, so it's going to be interesting to see how many jump on or jump off because of that. But yeah, it could be a lot swung in that sense. Now for me, especially with a lot of those bye rounds early on, you could actually take quite a good risk if the, you know, Sweet and if Naismith are actually rucks, then it's not going to really hurt you if there is an issue, because it's best 18 anyway. If you're starting Jackson regardless, then that way if there is an issue, well, you just trade them out, put Jackson in the ruck and then move from there. So there is quite a little bit of variance that you could actually use if that was a strategy that you're sort of looking for. So all right, here I am now. I'm waiting here for Chris. I should probably let him know that I'm here. Oh, no, they see I'm here. So I've picked him up. It's the AFL record from the grand final. Won't read you. So this is the first time I've caught up with Chris properly. I also picked up 2 newspapers. The Age, here he comes now, and this one as well. Here comes Teddy. Teddy, hello, sir.
How, bud?
Good, how are you?
I'm fantastic, buddy. You know, just chilling.
Living the dream.
Oh, living the dream. Oh, we're recording.
Yeah, I've been doing a little bit of a, here you go, clip this on. It's a magnet.
Clippity clip, I love it.
And that should now be picking up. I was just saying we haven't caught up, mate. So yeah, pull the magnet off and then you can stick it onto your shirt. See, pull. And then put this inside. Oh. It's a magnet. Do you know how magnets work?
Yeah, it's this new technology, right?
They're attracted to each other, kind of like you and me. Exactly, and then like have the mic tilted up towards you.
Oh yes, of course, the mic.
I was just having 14 minutes, mate. I thought, you know what would be fun, just to kind of do a bit of Supercoach on the road.
Oh, that's good. This is good. This is like carpool Supercoach or something.
It kind of is, yeah. Let me just
should I sing? What song?
Change this angle a little bit for you. Now, hey, check this out. I picked you up. I brought them with me, mate. You can talk. Here's your chance.
Oh, my man.
Here's your chance to talk.
Oh, my man. I'm so happy right now. You have no idea.
The AFL.
For those playing at home, hey, all grand final record. Get your footy record.
Oh, dude. I bought that thinking, what a great memento this will be when the Lions win. And I bought 2 newspapers as well. They're here for you too.
Oh, you absolute legend.
2 newspapers. I haven't read any of the 3 things. Although I should probably tell everyone. So Chris did me a favour post grand final, the day after the grand final. I don't think I've probably put this out there publicly yet. I was absolutely wankered at the AFL Grand Final.
Yes, you were.
I got in there. I was worried about, the lineup. I was worried about a few things. I got in there super early, like 11:30, watching the the Grand Final sprint, and and then the only good beers there, like the pale ale kind of XPA sort of beers that I like, there were 1.4, 1.5 standard drinks. So it would have been fine having a couple drinks here and there, all good, no issues, except that I sat next to a guy to my left, and there were 3 of us, 3 singles, right? Because I had a seat by myself. A guy to my left lives at Wellington Point, which is about 15 minutes from where I live. And I was like, holy crap!
Dude, what are the
I was like,
chances?
crazy. And then the guy to my right's like, oh, I'm from Thornlands. I was like, no way. I was like, so we're here having a great time. This guy takes a photo and he's like, oh, I'm going to send a photo to my wife and stuff, saying, hey, I made some friends. Don't worry about me. And then he gets a text back from his son saying, hey, that's a teacher at my school. So what happened was that we kept doing rounds. So we're like, oh, well, yeah,
and then you got to play catch up, right?
And then because there's also 4 drinks in a thing, someone's doing doubles. So, and I didn't leave my seat unless it was to get around. And because I was so encapsulated by the football, I didn't even think about food. I didn't buy any food at all.
No time for food at the grand final, bro.
I'd hop up to get drinks. I'd be in my seat otherwise, drinking the rounds that they would bring me. And when everything got so chaotic at the end, I was so anxious, dude. I actually hopped out of my seat. I went and stood. I was watching the TV screens. That's how nervous I was, dude. Charlie Cameron kicked a goal. I'm looking at this other guy, some old timer Collingwood fan. I was just like, dude, I can't watch. I'm so nervous. He goes, you're nervous? He goes, I'm shitting myself.
Feel these nipples.
Yeah. He was getting Dom Sheed vibes, right? So anyway, so then as soon as we lost, the siren went, and I just stumbled out. Got on the first train out of there. Stumbled is the accurate description because I was in no shape. And so I think I went home, tried to forget all about it, woke up, my partner was upset because I didn't let her know I was home safe because I passed out for about 6 hours. And then Chris took her flowers for me the next day, so thank you, Chris.
What a bro's for.
And I said, I've got these magazines that I've never looked at and never will look at, so someone can get some use out of them.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, mate, I was also on my feet for the entire last quarter. I literally, three-quarter time happens, I go to the fridge and just get a bunch of jimmies and just go, all right, I am not moving from this area. Get out of my way. Noah, if you start crying, go to bed. Like, I was not interested. I was very fortunate that Eliza was home and she was able to take care of the kids, so I could focus on being absolutely shit-faced with my dad. And by this stage, Dad's just yelling at the screen. Like, it was on for young and old.
I don't even swear much, and even I was swearing all the time. Like when Nick Dacos got a couple of frees, I was like, "What the hell?" And then what was it? Dacos. Yeah. And then was it Danaher or Hipwood? Well, Hipwood got a cheapie. Maybe it was Danaher in the goal square, caught one over the shoulder. And I haven't actually watched the game back in full.
We should do a watch party.
We should.
That would actually be fun.
I'm probably over it enough now. I'm thinking about the next season.
I get it because I actually haven't rewatched the 2018 Grand Final outside of the 17,000 times I've seen Dom Sheed's goal in the highlights reels. But
I'll make you a deal. We'll watch the last quarter of that Grand Final, and then we'll watch the last quarter of this Grand Final.
Okay. Look, I think it would be fun because you see. You would see a lot more because when you're at the game, the ball's on the other side. Sometimes you're not exactly all the way in. And it's hard to do. And so usually what I do when I go and watch a live game, if it's a win anyway, I generally don't rewatch losses. I'll then go home and then watch it. On recording.
Oh, if we won, I would have watched the game 100 times.
100%.
And I remember that. I think that happened. Was it when we beat Richmond or we flogged Carlton? Like I'd go home and then Fox will be playing a replay at midnight or something. Exactly. I'm like, hey, I'm watching this game at midnight.
No, I completely agree. And I will say that I feel like Collingwood are very fortunate to be in two of, in my opinion, probably the best grand finals of the last 20 years. Like, and if
since
you take
what?
it back
Was it 05, 06 though? Like the West Coast
the
Sydney,
West Coast
they were
Sydney
probably the
grand
last.
finals were fantastic.
That were the
right?
last two, yeah.
And then if you around that time, you had quite a few because you had the obviously the Lions Collingwood from 01 was absolutely epic. The 02 was a blowout. 03 was that Port or was that 04? Who did you go the third one against?
Collingwood. We beat Essendon, didn't we?
Essendon was the first one. Then okay, yeah. Yep. So yeah. In terms of there's been some blowouts of recent. You know, Richmond obviously absolutely blew out GWS. Who was it last year? Sydney got absolutely killed. Was it Sydney?
Geelong. Yeah, Sydney.
Like first quarter was over. Like, so you've had some blowouts, and I think in the middle of that was two absolute classics. And so, look, although like 2018 was a thing, and I went to, and that's why I didn't go, by the way. So for those playing at home, I didn't go to that grand final because I did the grand final this year because I just couldn't do it again.
Yeah, that's fair.
And it was almost a play-by-play of the same season in that against every other team, we were the best team. But when we played West Coast, we couldn't beat them. We lost them 3 times that year. Same in 2011 when we played Geelong. When we lost to Geelong, we were the best team. I think we had 162 percentage points or something like that, which is ridiculous. But Geelong were the only team to beat us the entire year. They beat us twice in the home and away season, then in the grand final.
Well, we beat you all year, just not when it counted.
and so I was like, nah, I'm not doing this because Brisbane are like our kryptonite. They're the team that we really can't beat. And it took us playing a almost perfect game.
It was very impressive. And even then, I think Zorko came out saying as well, just I think fairly recently, saying, well, Collingwood did things that they weren't even expecting. Like, they just changed things up structurally, and Brisbane were caught by surprise, going, and actually it threw them off. And you can tell that they were thrown off, and like the game had like ebbs and flows and momentum. But the thing that I think Collingwood did really well, apart from actually marking and tackling inside 50, like their tackles inside 50 were crazy. The pressure was huge. That was a big difference for me. But yeah, the other thing is that Brisbane are generally that momentum team. It helps when
the guy that wins the Norm Smith is your forward pocket, right?
I know. And now you've just picked up another small forward. Like, go help us.
We'd like to have a centre half forward though that would stay in the park for longer than 5 minutes. That'd be nice.
Yeah,
thanks for that hand grenade. That was really good.
Oh yeah. Well, poor McStay's out.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, sad.
But the other, so that part for me was the pressure. Brisbane are a momentum team.
Yes.
And if they don't get that momentum, then they're a confident side. So if they're not getting the run of goals to really hype them up, if they kick 3-4 goals in a row, then the Lions just get going. Like, they are just hard to stop.
Yep.
But they never had that. It was like a couple of goals here, and then Collingwood would stop them, put some pressure on, get a goal back. So Brisbane never really got going, in my opinion.
Yeah, and here's the other thing that I will say as well. There needs to be more of an effort for a grand final to make it a neutral ground as possible. Right, so what I mean by that is there's a big thing during the week, that obviously Brisbane can only play at the Gabba and blah 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 blah, and they're not good at the G and whatever, and a lot of it come back to the music after goals and celebrations and things like that. I reckon most teams are moving towards doing that, but why not get that into the spirit of the game? If that's something that they do when they kick goals, let them have it. Like, who cares? And
what about Eddie cracking it though?
He cracked it.
They had putting a vote out to the public on their quarter time song, and the crowd chose Country Road.
Yeah, awesome. Great song.
And then everyone's like singing it super loud. Charlie Cameron kicks a goal, and then everyone's we're all just singing it again. And Eddie was so filthy. Like, how dare they put that vote up, or how dare people vote for it?
But it's not Collingwood's home ground. Like, the grand final needs to be a neutral venue, and even though it is Collingwood's home ground, so this is my thing. I definitely think that there needs to be a massive effort, especially considering that the Melbourne teams have 10 teams that they have eligible to play in a grand final every single season. There needs to be a much bigger effort making it so that it's not necessarily a home ground advantage.
Or just keep your advantage, and then we'll keep our academy advantage. Like,
right.
Hello, what a great compromise.
A lot of things that have happened in the off season that I think are just silly, because every time there seems to be a distinct advantage to one of the northern teams or to West Coast or to whatever. All the Melbourne teams go,
Sydney gets Buddy, and they're like, oh, they're cheating. How have they got the salary cap for this?
Trade restrictions, Cola goes away, Ad Academy's going away. Like, every single time it sort of really goes in their favour.
To be fair, I think the last people that actually broke it was Ugo Hagen and the Dogs, where they're like, oh, no. So now all these other teams are like, oh, we have an academy player, but NGA, we can't pick them up. Like Saunders and everyone else, it's like, oh, unlucky.
And it's going to get, what's annoying is it's going to get worse over the next few years once Tassie comes in, right? So let the clubs be able to develop their talent and get them in through other pathways, because it's going to be another compromised 5 years of drafting. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So
you need all the talent you can
100%.
get, and the academies bring talent to the pool.
Yeah, and clubs like Collingwood, for example, and I've loved what the club's done, and they've gone about it slightly differently, but they've had obviously the Dacos brothers, more. We had the Brown brothers. We've had a splattering of good father sons, and then we also had freaking hell, what's his name?
Jordan De Go.
No, number 3. What's number? Black guy.
IQ?
IQ. I don't know why. Quaynor.
It's your team.
He's an academy player.
Yeah,
right? So top 5 pick that we obviously didn't have the picks for. And what they've... Look, the smart list managers are smart, right? They understand that if they can trade out their early picks and get value into the club and get other players with those picks, and then use later picks to try and supplement to get your either NGA picks or your father sons, then you win on both counts. And so they've done that for, I reckon, the past 10 years. So Collingwood has been able to maintain competitiveness because of that. And so I think that everyone's up in arms, but every club has had their advantages. Every single club. Others definitely more than others based on sort of timing, I guess. Because when your players come through, so the Gold Coast get 3 guys, or was it 4 guys within?
Yeah, 4.
Top
4
20,
within
whatever.
the 27 or whatever it is.
They need the help, bro. I know that their list is full of guys in the top 10, but
it's also an anomaly. Like, you're not going to get that many top end talent all the time, and it just happened that the Allies won the competition, so naturally there's more Allies that are going to be in the first round picks because they were
the first time.
Because they were the team that won, right? So it's not going to happen every year, but then people look at it and go, oh, well, that's an issue. But without the academy, they're not going to get those players in. Without the academies funding it to get that reward, they're not going to get those players in. And then if you have Tasmania coming in to the competition, well, would you rather, hey, like Gold Coast, yes, Gold Coast might pick up their own homegrown talent, but then the people that, if they weren't playing, Gold Coast would have picked someone else, and then that then takes away from the pool. So I'd rather more talented people, and then if there are issues, then sure, flag it. But Gold Coast were also super lucky that they didn't make the finals. Mm-hmm. If they made the top 8, they could have only picked 2 of those players. But because they actually finished outside of the top 8, then that's what enabled them to actually get the 3 and 4, well, what ended up being the 4th. So
there's also something to be said about being able to develop your own talent and then have the opportunity for a longer shot at them. Because at the end of the day, I think there'll be a lot more loyalty from a team that has expressed interest in you from when you were 15, 16 years old, compared to, we got you on draft night, didn't really want to go here, but whatever, I'm at North, let's give it a crack, and then 2 years later they leave. Like giving them the opportunity to develop those relationships over a long period of time, develop relationships with the family, gives them a higher opportunity to keep their talent, which has been Gold Coast's problem pretty much from the start. And so they finally get I say finally, obviously there's been compromised drafts over the last however many years they've been in the competition, because essentially they've finished low and got picks, and then they had a massive draft capital at the start of the competition, etc. But once Gary Ablett left, they haven't really had success, realistically.
No. And to be fair, I think Gold Coast alumni probably have more premiership winning players than Brisbane Lions, Fremantle, Essendon.
Yep, that's pretty crazy. But I don't know. There's been a lot of stuff on off season and lots of injuries as well. Yeah.
So what's your thoughts on the round 0 kind of conundrum and your strategy going in?
Look, I think at the end of the day, I don't love what they did, but I feel like it was the most practical way to do it.
You're talking about the AFL creating round 0?
Oh, that was stupid.
Yeah.
That was dumb. I don't know why.
Well,
like I get it because they don't have the venues, right? And they want to sort of take advantage of the...
So I already expressed my opinion, but it was, I think they're trying to build the interest in the northern states, right? But then they go, we're going to have like a soft launch to try and have a weekend where it's just in New South Wales and Queensland, and we're going to try and build the game up so everyone gets excited. It's the first soft launch. But then they also want to go, but no, we're not taking away from the opening round from Carlton and Richmond, and we want to try and keep it traditional. It's like, well, no, you haven't kept it traditional. No. You've gone for a soft launch, and then you've literally, now we got 8 bye rounds out of 24.
Yep. So a better way to do it would be to have another gather round and have it in Brisbane or Sydney, or rotate it between Sydney and Brisbane. Honestly, Magic round for the NRL is insane. Like, it's crazy.
Well, even Adelaide's huge.
Adelaide, they sell out it. Now, obviously, Adelaide's a footy state, so you've got to take that into consideration. But the economy would be freaking wild up here for something like that.
They should do that for the opening round.
Why not? Because they only need one venue. All right, they can get it bid. Oh, well, I suppose they need more than that.
Well, yeah. You've got a couple of venues in Sydney. You've got, so you can even go between Gold Coast and Brisbane.
Well, in Brizzy, you've got now the Springfield Stadium.
Yeah.
So you've got that one. You've got obviously Metricon. You've got the Gabba, and then you've got there are other obviously local stadiums and things like that.
And there'll be like Southport as well.
Southport's a big one.
Club. Yep.
Yeah. There's one in Sunny Coast as well, somewhere along there. Big one. But there's enough that you could get it going. Or you could play one up North Queensland at TO or whatever, get the Demons up there. Like, it's still technically around, I guess. So
back to Supercoach, what are you thinking?
So I thought it was okay because it's the solution that has the least amount of impact on the overall of Supercoach. Honestly. So by skipping round 0 and then starting round 1 and then bye rounds are 18 only, and they're early, right? They're in the first 6 rounds.
Yeah, I think round 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I think around that. Yep.
So and in those ones you only have 2 teams and it's top 18, which means that most teams won't be really upgraded. And outside of maybe the last game, you might have 1 upgrade.
Yeah.
Right. So
there's also no direct need to try and upgrade early because
you want to go after the bye.
Yeah, correct. It's best 18, so it's like, okay, well now you've got maybe a premium over a rookie, and you might pick up
bank the extra cash.
Yeah,
and
if they perform,
you're probably fielding 22 players those weeks.
Yep.
So look, it could be a situation where you might gain 30, 40 points. It's not gonna be the be all and end all. I understand the premise of say choosing players like Freo or Port because they not only don't have that bye, they'd have the
best buy,
right?
With the only 2 teams.
So but that was always the case anyway. So that really hasn't shifted too much mentality of me. So I think it is the solution that had the least amount of resistance and the easiest pathway to mass buy-in.
I think it's also easier for the casual players. If the round's already started and people can get a look at it and go, they might start a team, I think it's also going to create the less issues as far as, because imagine if you did have to pick 10 people and it's round 0 and you just pick the worst premiums by accident, or someone gets injured and then you go in going, and then I'd be like, okay, well, season done.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You've picked your 10 players, you're now so far behind because your players sputtered over other people's players, and I could see a lot of casual players just being like, nah, stuff it.
See, I like the idea that I had of still incorporating round 0 as part of Supercoach, but how you do that is you make it a higher score over those first 2 rounds. So the teams that are your players you have from round 0, only one of their 2 scores count, and it's the highest score. And what that does is it locks those players out, because what we have now is an advantage on every other team in Supercoach.
Yep.
So we get 8 teams and 4 games to view roles amongst all of those players, which
and the score as well,
and scores, and you kind of get from preseason. But what we know is round 1 comes around, and some players' roles are thrown out the window, other players are thrown in the bag. Midfield times, you get a really good grasp of what rotations are like, because the best 22 is actually selected. So those players, we're going to have more information about those than anyone else. So my idea was, well, that's an advantage that I don't want to take a part of if you're having an even competition.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to use it to its ability.
Well, of course.
If you make them locked out and you make them lock in the higher score over those 2 weeks, then that's not a situation that will occur. So that was my only thing that I would have done outside of that. I don't like the best 18 with one bye, but whatever.
I think it's going to keep the competition closer for longer. The other thing is that how many premiums do you reckon you might actually start then? Like, depending on roll for round one, out of those 8 teams, how many can you actually take through? Because yes, you can see their roll and you can see their score and everything looks great, but surely you have to be a little bit selective.
Well, my initial thoughts, and I've done like 2 teams, and my first one had 14 premiums and the second one had 13. And I'm actually looking at this season as there aren't too many. There's a lot of really good value. Like your Gordon Grundy is saving you like 300-400 grand right off the bat, right? So there's a premium in your bag. There's not a lot in the forward line. Like there's probably 4 guys, maybe 5 guys I would say that are premium worthy, and they're not really premium worthy.
Minus one. You sent me bloody more.
Yeah.
He's like, hey dude, check out this team. What do you reckon? I was just like, no, your team's shit. And he goes, oh, Dylan Moore. I was like, yeah, Dylan Moore.
See, the thing that I did with Dylan Moore that intrigues me is if you do a list and analysis of the Hawks forward line, there's not really much room left for a player like Dylan Moore. Don't get me wrong, I think he'll still play and pinch it forward like he always does. But I think he's got a lot more mid-time in him this year, and if he does, you know what he's doing. He's going over 100, bro.
he, you know what, he just might. Who did the Hawks pick up with their first pick? Was it that young? That's right, the best
small forward
since
draft.
Toby Green.
Yeah.
So that's going to be very interesting, I think. So that can definitely shift a few things. And
I think they also, Gunston as well, and there was another one that they picked up as well. And I think, personally, I just think that I think he's primed. Like, he's got the experience, and they want to inject that X factor into the midfield a little bit more, because what they've done with their midfield of late is they've worked out that they've got some really great ball winners, and they've tried to incorporate Day into that system as the elite user, but he's actually turned the ball over shitloads in the last, and that's one of my gripes. He can get the ball, that kid, and when he uses it well, his score's amazing. But his efficiency when he's in the contest isn't as great as when he was obviously off the half-back flank.
It was funny because compared to what he had the year before, he came out and he was like, so I had quite a good year, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, but I've still got I feel like I've still got another level I need to go. And I was like, yeah, no shit, mate.
No shit, Sherlock.
Yeah, the level of efficiency.
Yeah, pretty much. So I did like Dylan Moore. And then in the midfield, there are a lot of overpriced players, I think. And I'm not, the one in how I went from 14 to 13, essentially what I've done is I've added Bont instead of, say, a Tuke Miller or something like that. But, there's a lot of good value around that 500k mark for midfields. I like Tuke, depending role, of course. Jack Steele, I think, is one that can bounce back.
Yep.
There's Matt Crouch, who I actually really like as a 490k option, sort of more of almost a mid-pricer, but you expect him to be able to average somewhere around, say, 108 to 112-ish numbers if he can maintain his spot in the best 22, and I think he's solidified that now.
It's going to be interesting. Even on the low end, I saw if Sam Berry can get back into a good role, I know he hasn't, but as in if he did, he's low 200s. Zach Jones as well is someone that, because Saints don't exactly have the strongest midfield, he's someone as well that's 240 or 50k.
What there isn't this year compared to last year, there's no sort of 300k mid prices or 350k mid prices that are sort of poised.
It's 2 to 250.
Yeah.
Unless you're talking about Gresham's only 300 odd.
I don't think he has the role. No, I don't. Well, again, pre-season, right? So who knows what's going to happen? But I mean, Billings is one that I think we've talked about quite a bit. I think he's basically a lock. Yep. You've got Zach Williams in the backline as well. So basically cheap. A lock.
I think he was 9,000 more than Harley Reid.
Exactly right. And then you go Harley Reid lock. So you've got some really good cheap options that are probably going to average you, say, 80 plus minimum. And even the rookies, I look at the rookies, there's so many rookies that didn't even get their opportunity last year, or
there are so many rookies that have been in the system for 1 to 2 years.
Someone say Sam Darcy as well, in the forward line. I think that he could really have a, say, 75, 80 plus season. Super
cheap. Even Cadman now, I mean, what was he pick 1? So he's $80,000 cheaper.
Yep.
And he's going to be best 22. So I know he might not score great, but if he second year in the system, if he gets that lead up and he gets a few more scores, at least for a rookie, he might generate slow cash, but he might actually go all right. But I'm with you I think Darcy trumps it for me. But even Buslinger or whatever, I think is in defence. Who was the one that came from St Kilda? The high draft pick 7 was he? What's his name? Defender that had
Caulfield.
Caulfield as well. So cheap.
And then so you got Marty Hall back there, who's obviously an experienced guy that was off injury again. So and then there's also another 150k in the back line, I think he is. Gosh, I can't even remember.
But there's some great value.
There's some really, really good rookies and this is without really seeing the draft class present yet. There's just a lot of experienced guys that are really cheap. So, I think this year's definitely guns and rookies approach, but you don't have to go all out with guns. You don't have to be like 600, 700k guns filling your team, because there's a lot of good value around that sort of 550k mark. So
yeah, no, I'm with you.
Yeah.
All right, that's it from us. Hey, we'll get some content out there, particularly in the new year. I know Swizz is super keen to kind of get some stuff recording as well. But yeah, that's it from us. Just look, a bit of potty on the road.
I love it.
Well, we haven't seen each other in so long, dude. This is our off season. That's what I'm saying. We see each other so much during the season that when it's like cricket season, we actually get pretty much like an off season like AFL, where we just don't see each other. That's why when we see each other, it's good.
Excellent, buddy. Love you, buddy.
Talk to you soon. Bye.